Yeah, so thank you everybody from my list who decided to participate in this call. Like I mentioned in the email, I've known Howie for a while now, actually, but we definitely run around in the same circles together. But was about 2 weeks ago, I guess, he did a presentation at a friend of mine's meeting, and I was just totally blown away by it. And it was, it really helped me. Even in my own business, kind of, and I think I'm a guru at this stuff sometimes, and even I got a lot out of it as well. So, like, you guys are in for a really special call tonight. Howie wrote the book on AdWords for the most part, and so for those of you that aren't familiar with him, he wrote the Google AdWords for Dummies book. And if you don't have that, I definitely recommend you pick that up because it's a very, very foundational piece of literature there that will really help you basically master AdWords and get it right. And how he approaches it from a completely different standpoint than a lot of the other people that teach AdWords. What we're going to talk about tonight is going to really kind of help you identify, really get at the heart of what the person is searching for and how you can solve their problem tonight. So I'm really excited to be able to present this to you guys, and I'm really grateful for Howie for agreeing to do it, because I know he's done it a couple times here recently, and so it's going to be very powerful. I've got my pen and paper ready to take notes again, and definitely looking forward to it.
All right, thank you, Teddy. And so let's make this conversational so they don't just have to deal with my voice. So anytime you have something to add from your vast array of experience or a question or a clarification, I would love it if you'd join in and make this better.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Okay. So the good news for you and anyone who's seen any of my Camp Checkmate presentations, webinars, promos, talks, is that I've never given this one before. The bad news is I've never given it before. So we'll see if it's useful and clear. People should feel free to ask questions in the question box. I may not get to them, but especially if it's just something like I don't understand what you're talking about, that would be awesome, just so I can stay on track. The challenge with webinars is that I can't see you or hear you, so the feedback mechanisms are not ideal for me, and I do want to make this as valuable as possible. So those of you who've seen my presentations before might notice that there's a word difference here in this very first screen. Instead of usually it's how to create game over ads, and that's specifically for AdWords. Tonight we're going to be talking about something more broad, more general, and more globally useful. And you have to understand that I come from the AdWords world. It's AdWords that first got me thinking in this way, and it's AdWords that I still think is the very best playground to do the Checkmate work. But it's not the only place. And for people who are not spending a lot of time or money in AdWords, the goal is to make this methodology and mindset applicable in anywhere you're in business to improve your positioning. So AdWords is a perfect place to do it, and you're going to be using some AdWords tools, especially the Google search results page, which we'll go over in a minute, but you can do it there and then apply it anywhere. And just to give folks a word of warning, in about 10, 15 minutes, I'm going to ask you guys to do some work, to do some thinking, and possibly speaking up. So hope that's okay. If not, this is a really easy classroom to hide in the back and avoid the teacher's eye, so nobody should get worried. Okay, so again, this is me. I've written a couple of books about AdWords. And AdWords is really where this all started for me. It started out by learning best practices and following best practices, but the darn thing about best practices is that as soon as enough people know them, they're no longer best practices. They're simply being part of the clutter. So, one example is use the keyword in the headline or as the headline of a Google ad. Well, once everybody does that, and you can see it all over the place. I had a slide I took out, but if you search for like Gibson guitar guess what? Just about every ad, the entire headline is Gibson guitar or Gibson guitars or Gibson guitar for sale, and they might as well not have it at all. So AdWords was where I started thinking about, you have a really small space and you have to be different. You have to attract the eye away from the clutter of that page. And so it really is due to this incredibly difficult and demanding medium that I, in self-defense, was forced to develop these methods. And they're much easier to implement anywhere else because there's so much less competition. Okay, so what's game over positioning? To do that, I'll return to one of my favorite movies, Gone with the Wind. So there is the heroine, Miss Scarlett O'Hara, beautiful, feisty, and every boy in town wants her. Here she is at a picnic, and you can see around her are all the men who are pitching woo. And you'll notice, if you look closely, that they all are smiling the same. They're dressed the same. Their hair is combed the same way. They've got the same sideburns. In the movie, they're making the same comments. They're making the same offers. And she's delighted with the attention, and she's not going home with any of them. She's simply not interested. They are clutter, and that is, Scarlett O'Hara is the person who is looking, is the customer, is the ideal prospect, and all these bows are all the businesses who are marketing to her. Now, as I said, it's really clear on AdWords that that's the case, where they're all lined up next to each other, one on top of the other, on the Google search results page, all saying, choose me, choose me, choose me. But it's true anywhere there's a business. If you're in the yellow pages, if you're a local realtor or debt consolidator, or you sell sporting goods, there is always competition. And the question is, how are you positioned in your prospect's mind to be so different from the competition that you become the obvious choice? So I read a book about this a long time ago called Positioning, The Battle for Your Mind by Reese and Trout, and it was great, but it didn't really tell me how to do it. So what I'm hoping that Checkmate will do is actually tell you how to do it and not just that it's important to do it. So what's game over positioning? We know what it isn't. Game over positioning is what this fellow does in the movie, Mr. Rhett Butler. You'll see him coming up on your screen in just a second. There he is. He's the one who wins her heart, and he does it by being different from everybody else. And if you watch the movie closely, he spends a lot of time observing the other suitors. And you can tell that because he makes comments about the other suitors. And he's even in the room when she's being pursued by some of the other suitors, and he hides behind a couch and kind of spies on their positioning so he can establish his own. And while all the other gentlemen are saying things like, oh, Scarlett, you're so pretty, you're so wonderful, you're so charming, he says things like, a cat would make a better mother than you. And regardless of whether you think this is an effective way to start a relationship, arguably their relationship is one of the most corrosive, destructive I've ever seen on the screen. Nevertheless, he's able to win her by using strategic positioning, game over positioning that makes him the obvious choice above and beyond anybody else. Okay, so what does this positioning consist of? It consists of three things. It consists of your offer, your ideal customer, and your competition. So your offer, the top one, that's where most people stop. They think, and this is, in a lot of cases, that's all you need to do. You say, okay, I've got something. I sell photocopiers. I sell foam rollers for your back. Here's what it is. Here's why it's good. Here's why you should buy it. And that's good enough. In areas where there's no competition, where someone's in your store, where you're the only one advertising in the medium, that sometimes is all you need. That's getting rarer and rarer because competition, especially through the internet, is crossing all boundaries, and everything is equally convenient and inconvenient. So then we look at the next level of marketing is looking at your ideal customer. And we're going to do that in the second part of this webinar, we're going to do work on an ideal customer. And understanding what they want, who they are, why they want it, how they want it, all those things that allow you to craft your offer specifically to them. And often that's enough because very few people do that. But there's a third element that you can see on the lower left that really kicks it up to the highest levels of marketing, which is also understanding your competition, understanding what the architecture is of their choices, understanding what is the context in which they're going to be making this choice. The person who's done the most interesting work on this area is a fellow named Dan Ariely, who is a behavioral economist. And he's done a ton of work on how people make decisions based on relativity, based on what else is around them. So things like who does someone find attractive? They find someone who looks slightly better than someone standing next to them. What's a better magazine offer? It's when you put in a decoy that's worse. So understanding in any situation that if you can create decoys, if you can differentiate yourself by putting something else in that's similar but inferior, you have a better chance. Well, the same thing holds true on the Google search results page, and it holds true in almost every advertising medium you can think of. People are barraged by choices, and so they're going to make their decision not based on every piece of information possibly available to their brain in the entire universe, but their brain is going to try to delete everything except the relevant stuff. So it wants to know, okay, there's 3 vendors, who's cheapest, who has the best shipping, who is the most reliable, which one can get it to me fastest, stuff like that. And when you combine your offer, your ideal customer, and your competition, you have something unbeatable. Now, most people, if they do look at all 3, start with their offer, and then they try to fit it in like a last puzzle piece that may or may not fit. Ideally, you look at the competition, you craft an avatar for your ideal customer, and then you make an offer that stands apart, that clearly differentiates you. So enough theory, let's put it into practice. And we're going to use Google to put it into practice, and here's why. Google is a search engine. Google is a stock market for words where you get to bid on words and phrases, but Google is also the world's best positioning playground. And what do I mean by this? It's easy to use the Checkmate method to discover your ideal customer through market insight. If you know your customer and you've been in business for 30 years and you talk to people all the time and you shake their hand and sit down nose to nose, toes to toes with them, then you may already know exactly who they are. But if you're doing e-commerce, you may have a vague idea or you may think you know. Google is the perfect place to do the quick and dirty market research to give you a sense of who these folks are. Secondly, Google allows you to see all your competitors in one place. So if we just take these 2 things, if anyone on the call has done market research, let's say in the 90s or 80s or 70s, these 2 steps take 6 months and cost at least $200,000. And now you can do it all in an hour or less for free by just using Google.com. Not even a tool, not even anything you have to pay or sign up for. Once you do those 2 things, the next thing you can do with Google is express a position. To say, okay, here's my ad. You write an ad, and you put it up there on that page, or you create an organic listing. You put it up on that page, and you say, here's what I've got to say. And ideally, it's expressing your love for the ideal customer better than anyone else. You know them better than anyone else. You serve them better than anyone else. You understand them better than anyone else. And your response is simply love made manifest, love in action. Next, you can quickly and cheaply test that position through AdWords. You run it up, you run 2 or 3 of them at the same time, and you see how they do. You see which wording works best, which appeal, which offer, which audience is the best one within that big market to even try to appeal to. And so you're not, you don't say, well, I have an idea, I tried it, I did some research, and so now I'm going to spend $36,000 on my Yellow Pages ad for the year, and I can't get it back. No, you can spend $1.50 on 20 clicks and see whether it's working or not. You could spend $100 on testing and end up with really, really strong positioning that's been validated by the market and is not just some marketing guy's idea about what you should be doing. Next thing is you embody the winning position. And what I mean by visionary improvement is it's easy to write an ad that's actually better than your business. And we'll see that in a little while. It's easy to put together 15 words that are actually promise you can't yet keep. But there's a slippery slope here, and the best businesses then reinvent themselves to keep the promise. We're not talking about just fancy marketing. We're talking about marketing that reflects the inner reality of the business. And sometimes what Checkmate does is it shows you, here's what the market wants from me that maybe I'm not providing yet. So instead of now using the competition to be a me too, you use the competition to leapfrog to a position of authority, a position of clarity, and a position where you are the obvious choice. Okay, so the main tool, actually, Teddy, I'll take a breath here and see if you have anything to add, any questions, any comments.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with you 100%. I mean, like, once you understand how to really tap into all the information that Google provides that most people really don't see because they don't really know how to look at it properly and really, get a real feeling for what it's telling you. But you're absolutely right. Like, being able to look at your ads, being able to look at your competitors, being able to see everything all in one spot, and find ways to differentiate yourself, position yourself differently. And I love the example that you gave about Gone with the Wind because it's like that. A lot of marketing is exactly the same premise that you would use to pick up a girl, whether it's in a bar or at a restaurant or a networking thing or anything like that. I mean, you first have to get their attention. Then you have to build some desire in them, and it's like the ADA formula that we use in marketing, the same formula you use to meet your wife or to meet your girlfriend or whatever, and you can kind of leverage that and translate that and then really have the advantage of being able to see what your competitors are doing like you can on Google. It's a very powerful tool to be able to leverage, absolutely.
Right on. And in marketing, we get to be polygamous. We get to have more than one customer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. And so other folks, if you have questions, you can just type them in the questions box if things are unclear. I'm keeping half an eye on that while I go through. So the main tool, the initial tool that we use in Checkmate is the Checkmate matrix. Here is a truncated version. It doesn't have everything. It has a bunch of the important things. There's a couple of columns that I left out, not to entice you, but just because we're not going to get to them tonight. But this is certainly good enough. And what this is a way to look at the Google search results page through something that already makes sense. When I was already teaching, you've got to look at your competition on Google and see what they're doing. And I was teaching that before I actually knew what I meant. And I could do it, but I couldn't teach anyone else how to do it. I'd just be like, look at it. Like trying to teach someone else how to ride a bicycle. You can't, if I can't break it down step by step, then I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm just working off of intuition and dumb luck. So the matrix came to me as an attempt to explain to other people what to look at in the Google search results page. And we start with this because I call it clearing the mental palette. When we start marketing, we have a bad desire to make money, to do sales, to get leads, to get customers. We're really focused on that. We're really invested in it. And when you're in that mindset of I've got to accomplish something, it's very hard to drop into a just the facts mindset of just seeing what's there dispassionately without needing anything from anyone, without being angry at competitors for what they're saying, without being envious, without worrying, just looking and seeing. And the matrix is a really good tool to drop into that kind of consciousness where you just start noticing things you might not have noticed otherwise. So we're going to talk about what's the offer. in the ad. And you can use this, again, for Google, and you can use this for anywhere. These are standard direct marketing elements. What's the offer? Is there an offer? A lot of times you won't see an offer, an obvious one. It might be implied. What are the features that they're touting? What are the benefits? Is there a call to action? And if so, what is it? Meaning actually telling you, using an action verb, an imperative, saying do something. Does the ad have a reason to believe? A reason that you would say, yeah, I think they can do that. Does the ad have its own voice? And by that I mean, when we read things, we hear them in our heads as we read them. We hear the words. If I say, think of the word D-A-W-N, you'll hear yourself saying it, or you might even hear me saying it. Or if I say P-A-W-N, you will hear the word as you visualize it. And if I say Y-A-W-N, you'll hear it, and you might even have a physical reaction. So when we read things, we read them with a voice. Most ads are written in a neutral voice that you don't even pay attention to. But some ads are written in a voice of either someone you'd recognize, a famous person. Like if I put Doe in an ad, you'd immediately think Homer Simpson. Or it could be an ad, a voice of concern and compassion with a question, or it could be a voice of sneering and putting down other people. It could be a voice of contempt. If your ad has personality, people will give it a voice and it will stand out. And finally, we're looking at the big difference. How is this ad different from all the other ads, if at all? So this is what we do, and the rows rows going across are going to be all of the different ads. You're just going to write it down. So let's take a look visually. In the Camp Checkmate setting, we'd actually go through. You'd get the matrix, and we'd go through your own search results page for your business and go through all this. We're going to do an example. Oh, I did put it in. I forgot. Sorry. This is going back to why we use this. Because look, if you search for Gibson guitar, there it is. Gibson guitar, guitar Gibson. So clearly this best practice is not enough. So we have to look and see where we can fit in. So here's the screen I wanted to show you. Just took this screenshot about an hour ago. So get out of debt. So there is a phrase that clearly states a desire, states a problem. So let's look and see what folks are doing based on the first 4 columns of the matrix. So I'm going to ask people, someone wants to know, is the replay going to be available? That's the goal. I'm recording it. The recording's never as good, but I'm recording it 2 ways, on the phone and somewhere else, so you should be able to watch this again. But you should keep writing like crazy because that makes me feel good. Okay, back to this. So let's look and see for 4 of the columns what's going on here. So do you see any offers? I see just a couple. I see free consultation and I see free counseling. Oh, here's another one I missed, free consultation. And an offer, by offer I mean, what do I get? Not, so you look here, call now, bonded, 20K minimum debt required, but it doesn't say what you're going to get. It says here's the outcome. Here's something else, but it doesn't say you're going to get a book, you're going to get a plan, you're going to get a consultation. So even here, easy, secure debt consolidation. Well, I don't know what that is. I don't know what exactly they're offering me. So very often offers are hard to come by. So there's only just a couple here on this page. So what we're doing is we're looking for spaces where we can establish a positioning that will stand out. Okay, so that's offers. How about features? Features are the lifeblood of most advertising because it's what we know. I could talk about the features of Camp Checkmate all night. I could say the dates, it's October 15th and 16th. I could talk about the hours. I could talk about where it is, Durham, North Carolina. I could talk about, okay, the first thing we're going to do is this, and then this, and we have a good lunch planned and all that. and there's parking and all this stuff. And that's easy for me because I can visualize it. It's much harder for me to talk about benefits because that's from your perspective, not mine. So you'll see almost everyone is feature heavy, and I didn't even put in all of them. So features are facts about the offer or about the company. 25-year law firm, bonded, easy, secure, less than 4 minutes. You see all those that data. Up to 50% debt-free, 70% fast approval, nonprofit, help thousands, BBB rating, all that. So those are all features. And you can, I'm not saying don't use them, but you want to use them again to differentiate or to substantiate a claim. You use features to reinforce positioning. Otherwise, how do you know which features to use? There's a zillion features about anything. Color, size, shape, smell, texture, all that stuff. How many pages are in the book? What kind of stock was used? Is it perforated? And, you could talk about anything. And most people choose features based on what comes to their mind as opposed to what's going to support the positioning that's going to get them the business in their client's mind, in their prospect's mind. That's features. Next one, call to action. So you can see there's a few here. Call now, and there's a couple of 800 numbers. Call or start online, start now. Those aren't so great. The call now is okay, especially if they pick up the phone and you don't have to pay the Google click. I'm sure the 800 call is cheaper than whatever the price is for number one on Google for get out of debt. But start now, it's kind of weak. So is there a better call to action that you might use in your own advertising, or is it even necessary? And finally, reason to believe. So this is really important because most of the time we go through life and we just distrust. We don't believe we can do things, and we don't believe other people can do things. We have been taught to be skeptical, to be cynical. We've been taught by other people who have promised things not to believe promises, not to trust in them. So we're always on the lookout for not just a reason to believe, but a real reason to believe. Something that we say, yeah, that works. And you can see people doing this on this page in different ways. So the 25 years here or 50 years down the right. Christian, twice in the URL. So someone who says, well, I'm a practicing believer, and so I believe anyone who has Christian in their URL is like me, and they would never mess with anybody, and they have our interest at heart. You have someone here talking about Obama picks credit card reform free. So I'm not sure if that works with people who disapprove of Obama. It could work both as people who like him would then say, oh, well, the president's name lends credibility. But it also, even for people who don't like him, it might say, oh, well, here's the reason that this is going to work because of this fact, because of this current event. So reasons work, years in business, words like trusted, here the United States, and even in the URLs, you can see debt consolidation law firm. So see, repeating the law firm might make someone say, yeah, that sounds right to me. So those are all elements that you can use. We're not going to talk about voice right now or big difference, but what I want you to do is kind of, as you're imbibing this, there's a reason we're going to sort of leave it hanging for a second. So this is what everybody's saying. So let's now turn to the actual person who just typed in get out of debt. And what I'm going to ask you to do is go blue. And by go blue, I mean if you've seen the movie Avatar, what happens is there's a race of humans who are trying to colonize a planet which is populated by a race of very tall blue people. And humans can create avatars which are blue-like people that they embody the consciousness of. And what happens in the film is that they do it to go in order to better understand this race so they can negotiate or bully their way to the mineral rights of the planet. But what ends up happening inevitably when he lives in their body and lives in their skin and sees the world through their eyes is he inevitably goes native. and he falls in love and becomes one of them. So we're going to go blue, and here's how we're going to do it. We're going to spend a couple of minutes now working on the avatar. So we might as well do it all together for the get out of debt, since that's the exercise, but you can certainly do this for your own company, your own business, your own keywords. This is just an example. So first thing we're going to do is breathe and center ourselves. Just slow down the mental cortical function and just come into our own body. And the reason we do this is if you're going to try to see through someone else's eyes and feel through someone else's senses and heart, you have to be very aware of your own projections, of what is going on inside you that's just noise. That's your own chatter that has nothing to do with them. So first thing we do is quiet our internal chatter so that we can then become a clearer channel to understand the person and the group of people that we're trying to sell to and to help. So let's take a few seconds now and just start noticing your breathing. Notice if it's deep or shallow, if it goes all the way down into your belly, or it's staying up in the chest. Notice the flavor of the air, the temperature of the air going in and out, generally coming in cool, going out warmer. And center around your body, whatever that means to you. Maybe notice where you're giving weight to the earth, your feet on the floor, your bottom on a chair, maybe your back, maybe your hands are resting on the desk or on your lap, maybe you're lying down. And quickly scan through your body, look for areas of tension, and just realize that you are present. All of you is present right now. Okay, so with that, now we're going to get into the avatar body, and we're going to work together on someone who just typed in, get out of debt. So let's start by thinking about why they typed that in. What triggered them in that moment to type in, get out of debt into Google? Probably they've been in debt for a little while, wouldn't you think? It's not just the last 2 minutes that they just discovered that they have a bill that they can't cover with their bank balance, or they can't pay off their credit card. They may be quite a bit in debt. You might have noticed that a couple of those ads, the top ones, actually advertised the amount of debt that people had to have to even use their services, 20K, 30K. So we already know from that people are already there. By the time they do this search, they're in serious debt. They've dug a deep hole. So feel that. You may have been in this situation yourself. You may be in this situation now. You may have heard about someone, or you may have been fortunate never to be in this situation, and you've got to imagine it. You've got to play with it. So imagine whatever just happened. Maybe you just crossed the threshold into that kind of debt. You just went from $19,700 into now you're over $21,000. Maybe you got a bill for your child's private school, and you've been working really hard to keep them in that private school, and you realize you can't do it. You can't afford to pay it. Maybe it was a fight with a spouse. Okay, so what I want to do here, and I've never done this before, it's come out of some work I've been doing recently on the hero's journey. There was another webinar on hero's journey that I did last week. We're going to write an avatar arc of longing. So here's what we're going to do. You've got the keyword, get out of debt. So why are they searching? And you can just jot down notes or just think about it in your mind. What problem do they want to solve? Right? They want to get out of debt. If someone types in Canon PowerShot camera, they want to solve the problem of not having a good small digital camera, or not having, or wanting to get one as a gift, or wanting to have one they can fit in their pocket. Right? So there's always a problem to solve. But then what feeling do they want to get rid of? When someone types in get out of debt, can you feel in your own body what that's like and what they desperately want to feel at the end? Some sort of hope, some kind of relief, a feeling that they're not bad, that somehow this isn't a stain that can't be rubbed off, that it's not proof of some general unworthiness. What feeling do they want to have at the end of the search? All right, so let that sort of seep in a little bit as we're talking about this get out of debt avatar. And now let's get very, very specific with the avatar. And Teddy, maybe you can help me do this. In fact, I'm going to ask folks also to type in questions. So, is the person typing in "get out of debt" a man or a woman? Somebody type something in.
Man, definitely a man.
It's a man. Okay, I think so too. Let's see if other folks agree. Let's take it a man. Yep, that's the answers that are coming in. So either something that I said triggered that, or people have a general sense of that. So what's his name? We've got Jimmy. All right, we've got a bunch of them. Bob, Jimmy, John. So these are all sort of standard white bread American names. So we're, how old? How old is Jimmy? 44. Jimmy's 44 years old. Someone else is late 40s. Someone says 33. So now all of you can do this yourself. Right? So if I'm saying Jimmy, but his name to you is John or Bob or Amit or whatever it is, you stick with that. Don't let anyone else mess with your avatar. But for the sake of this call, we have to get specific because we have to picture it. It's like when you wrote the script for Gone with the Wind, Rhett Butler could have been played by anyone as far as the writer was concerned. It's only when Clark Gable was cast that you then said, okay, now we know what he looks like. Now we know how tall he is. Now we know his mustache. Now we know that we have to scotch tape his ears back because they'll stick out otherwise. Now we know what kind of voice he's going to have and what kind of drawl and what kind of sarcasm he's going to use. Now, all of a sudden, the character came to life just by the casting. So when you have an avatar, you don't make the person a 35 to 44-year-old male because you can't talk to that person and you can't get inside the head because there is no person. Nobody is 35 to 44. But Jimmy is 44 and single or married?
Divorced.
Divorced. Okay, I've got a married, single, married, and so he's divorced. And how did he get into debt? What happened to him?
Tried to start a business.
Okay, and people are writing all the expenses from the divorce. Someone has, lost a job, tried to start a business. Someone's Marty writes he bought too many ebooks. And the business, and a couple of people say a gambling problem. So let's give him a gambling problem too.
All right.
We started a business. The business, right? When we start a business, we don't spend a lot of time at home. Sometimes we're married to our business, led to strife at home. Under the pressure, we'll do some gambling. All of a
Probably
sudden,
drinks a little bit.
Drinks to relieve the stress. Under this economy, would you expect a new business to be thriving? Probably not. And all that. Are there kids in the picture? Yeah. How many kids? 2 teens. College is looming. 2 or 3, 4, 2. Okay, so we're really building this out. Okay, so everyone, so I'm going to stop using the name. So whoever it is for you is what it is. So whether they're 33, whether they're 44, whatever problems they have, I want you to take that person, and we're going to do a little playtime. And you're going to look at your intuition, and we're going to turn back the clock to their childhood and see them at their most vibrant, whatever age that is for you, 5, 8, 10, 12, when they were most full of hope for their life, when they still believed in in superheroes, in being the center fielder for the New York Yankees, in being a movie star or a rock star, and see what that kid at their most hopeful, their most optimistic wants out of life. And if folks want to type in anything that comes to you there, I can share them. Okay, so Jen says married, gorgeous spouse, great car. So kind of an an American dream to be the the prince. I have it all, happily ever after, successful in all the ways that matter.
I'm thinking he wanted to be a baseball player or something like that.
Baseball player, the freedom. I always wanted left field. Right, it's not as bad as center field, but all the righties hit there when you're 10 years old, and there's so much freedom, and you're by yourself, and the lights and the grass and the blue of the seats. That was my dream. So, Kalis writes, very intelligent, will earn a lot of money and be successful, living on the parent's expectation. Oh, Roy writes, laying on bed as a 13-year-old, throwing the baseball up and catching it, dreaming of that home run that wins the series and the crowd goes wild.
That is awesome.
Oh, how many of us have had some version of that, whether it's baseball or another sport or art or music or something, and it's a developmental stage. It's a part of our psychology that we are impoverished when we lose that ability to dream big about our lives. Right? My guess is the people on this call have more of that ability than average people. The fact that we're business owners, entrepreneurs, listening in on stuff like this means that we still have it to some extent. So take your avatar with whatever their young, optimistic self is, and now look at the current situation from the eyes of that kid. They're looking ahead and they're saying, and you're showing them the movie, just like another one of my favorite movies, It's a Wonderful Life. Except here you're not seeing all the great stuff. You're just showing the kid the future. Here's your life. This is what you're going to be like when you're at this age. This is what you're going to be going through. And look into that child's eyes as they look at it. And I don't know about you, but I feel this in the cells of my body. If you could see me, my eyes are actually watering right now. I'm feeling a great sadness to show that kid this is what's going to happen. Can you feel the energy draining from them? So again, this is it's a challenging thing to do in a webinar. What we would do at Camp Checkmate is then have you write a diary entry for 5 minutes, either maybe as the adult, maybe as the child, maybe a little bit as both. And do you feel like at this point, someone writes, wow, this sucks. I'm really sorry. We'll try to end on a much more upbeat note. Now what we're going to do with this inside our heads is go back to this web page. to go back to the Google search results page for get out of debt. And look now and realize that what's happening inside your prospect's head is a conversation between that 13-year-old or 10-year-old or 8-year-old and the now 33 or 44-year-old person. And what's driving them as much as anything else, as much as anything that they can articulate, is the tension, the gap between what they wanted and what they still want out of life and what they have now. And tell me, where do you see a single word, a single phrase that speaks to any of that? Is there anything here that you look at that inspires you, that gives you hope, that connects with the kind of life you want? Anything here? Okay. So a couple people say, nothing. Ian writes, debt can be far more creative than this. Debt is not always bad, even though they make you feel desperate. Absolutely. What we're talking about is not the absolute reality. One thing you might tell people, in fact, it's a wonderful thing. Maybe you say to people, debt's not bad. Debt is okay. Debt is a useful strategy. Debt has gotten you where you need to be right now. So all of a complete reframing. How would someone respond to something like that, where everything jumps in, assumes their positioning? Debt is bad. Get rid of it. Really reduce it. What if you start with, your debt has been very helpful, and now it's time to reduce it? Maybe. I never even thought of that. It's a wonderful comment that Ian wrote. But as you look at this, I want you to be shocked at the lack of connection between the advertiser and the true beating heart of the person who's reading this. And that's really what Checkmate is all about. And now, how do we respond to that? That's a longer topic that we can cover. I gave you one idea, is to make them feel good about their debt before you immediately tell them to get out of it, right? So best practice, put the keyword in the headline. Maybe the best practice here is something that makes them feel okay about themselves. That tells them that this debt is supposed to have been, it's part of the plan, and maybe they're ready to begin to chip it away. It's just like when you go outside and you got to shovel snow. You don't say, "Oh my gosh, this snow is terrible." You just go do it. You got to wash the dishes because the dishes are dirty, but that doesn't mean that because you have dirty dishes, you're a bad person.
Webinar rather than today.
So what we would do at this point is, and at Camp Checkmate, what we do at this point is we get into groups of 4, and you read your diary to other people, and other people are going to interview you, like a little press conference. And then they write ads for you. They look at this, and they listen to you, and they write ads. So you'll end up with maybe 6 to 8 different ads that other people have written that you've never thought of before, that get to the emotional truth behind what's going on. And sometimes it names it, and sometimes just understanding it allows you to do this a little bit better. You could write an ad here that would just have a hint of empathy to it, right? You don't have to go all sob story on them. You just have to be different from what's happening here. And can you see how really the same almost all of these ads are? Teddy, I'd love to hear what you're
so I mean, one of the things that I would say is, I've watched Tony Robbins actually do like a lot of intervention type stuff where it really takes people from where they are to where they want to be. And a big part of that is painting a compelling future, like really giving them a vision of what their life's going to look like after they get out of debt. And none of these ads do that. None of these ads. They're all dealing with the immediate problem. They're not dealing with the ultimate outcome and what the person's ultimately seeking. So, you know, the more that you can paint that vision of a compelling future for your prospects, and how what you have is going to, you know, basically take them from where they are now to where they ultimately want to be, and acknowledge that you understand that where they're at is a pretty painful place, regardless of whether they use the debt for good or bad. You know, I mean, if you use debt to start a business, that could be a very good thing. If you just use debt to buy plasma TVs and furniture and stuff like that to depreciate the value, then that's probably not the best use of it. But either way, regardless of how you got there, you know, acknowledging there's, and it's hard to do, obviously, in 70, 80, 90 characters, but the more that you can quickly address those two issues. We understand, we know it's tough, here's how we're going to get you to where you really want to be, and paint that picture for them, I think is critical in this process.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and that's something that this exercise actually hasn't even touched on, is that, you know, ways to talk about the bright future. So Sabrina has a wonderful headline: "Debt is a great teacher." Imagine seeing that there. You go, huh? You know, thank your debt. It's taught, you know, or Sabrina writes, "You've learned valuable lessons from your debt. Now we get to the stage where you can leverage your new wisdom." Wow, what a reframe. Sabrina, I'm gonna hire you to do my ads for me. That's fantastic. And so then, you know, the thing with Camp Checkmate is this is just one exercise that I've actually never done before, so I haven't done this one live. But every exercise looks at this from a different angle. There's a wonderful game we play called Dear Dr. Freud, where we psychoanalyze the fears of our ideal prospect. What are all the reasons they wouldn't buy? What are all the ways they've been burned in the past in similar situations? All the objections we have to address. And that's, you know, largely around the landing page copy and subsequent things. There's dating game exercises where we look at some of our competitors and we try to figure out ways to outposition them. So there's lots of different ways to do it. I'm not suggesting that the arc of longing is the only way. You know, you might not use the arc of longing at all if you're selling digital cameras or vacations, but you sure might. You know, if you're thinking like a keyword like Disney vacations, I did a webinar where that word came up, and I was thinking that's going to be really hard to get emotional about. And you know what? People came up with incredible stuff about what their childhood was like, how they went on the vacation that they remember for their whole life, or how they couldn't, or be a hero to your kids. There's really nothing in life that we do that doesn't relate to this arc, to trying to live the best possible life, no matter how trivial it seems to the person who's bystanding or selling it. Everything I do, this webinar here, is intimately related in some way to my grand picture of what I want my life to be. And the same is true for all of you. There's nothing we do that doesn't have that as a deep, deep thrumming under, you know, the beating of our heart is always going on. The breathing, the air going in and out of our lungs is always going on. And just as those are often not in our conscious mind, but they are the foundation of us, these longings, these desires, these great heroic journeys that every one of us is on, is affecting everything we do. So that was a taste of the Checkmate method. I think I feel good about what people came up with of saying, you know, of the things people were writing. So I feel like, at least for myself, I feel like it's been helpful for some folks. And so what I'd like to do now is quickly invite you to consider attending the next Camp Checkmate workshop, which is in Durham, North Carolina, in exactly a month, the 15th and 16th of October. And here's what happens when you do this. When you all of a sudden, that search results page looked pretty good at the beginning. Now we can start to see huge holes in it. And when we do that 7 or 8 different ways, and you start to see all the ways you could begin to differentiate, remember this is a testing mechanism. So we could be wrong. Every one of our assumptions could be wrong, but AdWords is the perfect place to throw stuff up and see if we are wrong or if we're right. So what you get when you do this Checkmate method is you get a higher response rate. People respond because you're saying something different that's just appealing, that just connects with them. Because of that, you have a higher visitor value on your site or in your business. The people who come to you are more valuable to you, which means that your cost per lead or cost per sale is lower, which means you make more money. There's a bigger margin, higher profits, which is more money to spend on your advertising, which turns into a virtuous cycle for you and a vicious cycle for your competitors who, if they do care, don't spend the time to understand and really speak in a language that your market wants to hear. So that's why I call it Checkmate. So the next Checkmate Your Competition camp is, as I said, the 15th and 16th of October. It's a Friday, Saturday in Durham, North Carolina. There's an airport here. You do not have to take an ox cart. And here's the guarantee. 8 or more killer ad ideas you'd never have come up with on your own. 3 to 5 new landing page headlines to compel interest and flame desire. 6 ways to handle the most insidious objections, and the most insidious ones are the ones you didn't even know about. Because you can't, once you know an objection, you can come up with an answer for it. It's the ones that we don't know about that blindside us, and because this isn't face-to-face selling, they may never come up unless we can ferret them out ourselves. And 3 ideas for powerful, unmatchable guarantees. A guarantee is one of the most powerful things we can do. It has to come in the right place. You can't necessarily start with that, although sometimes you do. But when at the right time, a powerful guarantee that reflects what you can do and who you can help can throw everyone else into chaos. Witness Domino's Pizza, who had a powerful guarantee about 30 minutes or it's free, hot in 30 minutes or it's free, that allowed them to enter and dominate an already crowded market of local pizza joints. You're also going to get your own USP, unique selling proposition, because that's really the heart of what positioning is. You're going to end up really clear about the 1 line, the 1 to 3 lines you can say that someone will immediately understand, I see how you're different. We're going to look at your competitors' strategies and how to anticipate them and beat them at their own game to get there before they do if it's a good strategy. And because you're going to come up with so much material and other people are going to come up with it with you and for you, we're going to end with a testing plan. So I am pretty good at AdWords, and testing is the heart of AdWords. So we're going to come up with a plan for each ad, each concept, when you test it, for maximum improvement. You can cut your testing time budget down from 6 months to a year to 30 days just doing this right. And a burst of liberating creativity and the ability to recreate it at will instantly. It's really what stops us from doing this stuff, from doing this kind of marketing, is just the day-to-day. We boot up, we've got emails, we've got crises, we've got administrative stuff, we have the same environment. Just getting out, going to a different place, being surrounded by different people is tremendously liberating, and the positive effects last long after the workshop ends. So I talked about powerful guarantee. Here's my powerful guarantee for those things I'm guaranteeing. Here's the penalty. And I know I can guarantee it because it happens every time I do a Camp Checkmate. So, it's not me doing it, it's me setting the table and all of you showing up and providing this to each other. I'll write you a check for the cost of your tuition on the spot, and I will add $750 for your trouble if you come here and say, you know what, this is a crock and you completely lied and misled me. That's because I know I won't have to do it because I know this happens. But there's a fine print because I couldn't, someone could just take advantage of me. Or it could just be a wrong fit. Someone could come and expect all that, and they're just not ready, and they just don't have the right mindset or the right business. So you have to have a business. You have to show up, and by that I mean participate fully. Be open to new ideas from others. If you're not going to get anything out of Camp Checkmate. You have to be willing to share ideas with others. If not, no one's going to share them with you, and other people are going to have a diminished experience. And to make sure, so there's a lot of people on this call who don't know me and whom I don't know, I'm only doing it by application. An application means a 15-minute phone conversation where we're going to get to know each other a little bit, and I will have a good sense that, yeah, you're right for this group, and therefore I can extend that guarantee with that penalty clause to you. We're past the hour, so I'm going to skip the testimonials, although I will say that's Drayton Bird, who's one of my heroes, and he experienced a Camp Checkmate workshop and called it almost childishly simple but hugely effective. I love. And so this is there's a bunch of other people who have experienced this and found it really valuable. So again, 15th or 16th, I'm limiting it to 16 campers. I find 16 to 24 is the perfect number. The space I have here, 16 is just about right. It includes the entire Checkmate home study course, which you will have immediate access to. And I do sell that on my website for $497, so $500 is a slight hyperbole. It includes a full year of Chess Club, which is monthly live coaching. We just had a session today, and I got permission from the person whose website we looked at to share that. So, and it was a really powerful session. A lot of people provided great insight that could be worth really thousands or tens of thousands of dollars of private consulting. How much does it cost? Right, we always leave that for the end. The full retail price is $24.97, and there's no dots in there. $2,497. There is an early bird special of $14.97, which is on my website right now, and that's good until yesterday. So today's the 16th, right? All right, that just expired, but obviously I'll honor it here. It also includes the entire Checkmate course, the full year of group coaching, but I'm making a special deal just for this webinar for people who took time in their afternoon or evening who would like to attend this. And this is one of those things like on Amazon, like you got to put it in your cart to see the price. I'm not willing to talk about this price on a recording that people are going to see later. So what I'm going to ask to do is, if you're interested, to email me. That's my personal private email address, howie@askhowie.com, and say you were on the webinar and you're interested in finding out more and having a conversation and seeing if it's right for you. And we'll set up in the next week a 15-minute interview, and during that time I'll tell you right off the bat. You don't have to go through 14 minutes of agony before I tell you the price. I'll tell you what it is right away, and then we'll see whether this would be a good fit for you. So, and I'm doing this first come, first served in terms of who emails me. I've got 12 slots left. 4 are filled. My fondest wish right now, if you talk about my own life arc, is that tomorrow, or rather let's say on Monday, I could stop marketing. It's full. It's got 16 people, and I devote myself to teaching, to planning and preparing the best workshop I know how to do. So that's all I've got. I want to thank everybody for participating. Teddy, I want to thank you so much for sponsoring this and for inviting your list. I hope folks got a lot out of it, and it was worth their hour and 5 minutes. And again, howie@askhowie.com is my email address. If you're interested in finding out more and having a conversation, that would be the very next step. And Teddy, I'm going to turn it over to you to any final words and send us home.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, that was totally amazing, and I think by now people have gotten a good sense of really how powerful the strategy can be, and I imagine what immersing yourself in this process is like for a couple of days. It's copywriting, and being able to get inside the mind of your customer is by far the most valuable skill you can have in your business. And when you can translate that and leverage Google AdWords to reach your ideal prospects, it's just a huge, powerful combination that makes a dramatic difference. I've seen businesses double or triple when they've figured this strategy out properly. and I know of nobody else that can teach it as well as you do for a variety of reasons, not only your vast experience with AdWords, but just your ability to really connect with people and understand at a deep core level what it is that motivates them, inspires them, and drives them to take action. So I know I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really bummed that I have to miss it this time around, but I'm definitely going to be at the next one. And for all of you on the call, like I said, not only is it not often that Howie does an event like this in Durham, so for those of you that are local, this is a great opportunity where you don't have to spend money for a hotel or flights or all that kind of hassle of booking stuff, which I'm going through right now to book some stuff to go to Vegas, which is why I won't be at Howie's event. But this is just once very rare opportunity that I definitely recommend you take advantage of. So Howie, thank you very much. I know I got a lot out of it. I'm sure everybody else on the call did, and I'm really grateful for you taking the time out to talk to my group and share this valuable information with them, and I'm sure they enjoyed it.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. And one last little administrative detail. The GoToWebinar system will send out an email to everyone tomorrow, just either thanking you for being on it or for people who missed it. Thank you. You missed it. And so I'm going to put a web page where you can get the recording. However, the recording may not be done by the time you get it. So if that's the case and you want to listen to it, just bookmark that page or save the email. It will definitely be up by Monday, but there's technical challenges with getting a webinar recorded and encoded and up in a workable format. So I want, because that's the best way to reach you through the webinar, you'll get that email, but just know it may not be ready the minute you click on it.
Awesome. Thank you, Howie. Thank you to everyone who attended. Definitely appreciate you taking the time out, and look forward to doing a lot more of these with other top experts involved in internet marketing. So thank you, everyone. Good night.
All right. Good night. Thanks again, Teddy.
You're welcome.